Well, good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Formula Sim Racing in 2019. Where do we kick our year off? Well, as has become tradition, with the Winter Series. It's a quick fire, sure to entertain, 4-round season, each of course containing 2 races. And it's anybody's game. They're all lone wolves. There's no teams in sight. And so it really does mean that focusing on your own strategy, on your own setup, it really comes under the spotlight, and we'll be seeing maybe some different results to what you would expect if you were to look at these names in a full-on World Championship Ace or Pro season. My name is James Krik, and alongside me for today, and hopefully for the rest of the season, is Mr. Felix van Delft. Oh.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Am I a little bit better now?
Yep, that's better.
There we go.
Right.
Okay. Audio issues, tech issues abound. I'm James Krik. Apologies for that muffled intro. Yay, Formula Sim Racing 2019. Felix, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, James. I'm really excited for the Winter Series here. First round of the season, and we've got a huge amount of drivers already doing qualifying. A lot of drivers that did pre-qualifying, but weren't able to get through because we only have a place for 30 drivers here in the main grid. I don't think, or maybe there's going to be a second grid. Yes, there is, I think. So there's even going to be another race going on next to our race going on already. So it's going to be great.
It's a good chance to sort of bed yourself in after, for a lot of these drivers, a long winter away. Some, of course, are taking part in the IndyCar series that rounded out 2018 for Formula Sim Racing. One thing I love about the Winter Series, though, is, like I was saying in that muffled, distorted intro, I do apologise for that, it tends to throw up some surprise results, and you just got to
look at the past 4 winners of the Winter Series, and you think, how did they quite do that? So you got Patrick De Witt, Kuba Brzezinski, of course, Martin Stefanko, now of F1 esports fame, and Michi Hoyer, who actually returns, could potentially be the first ever 2 times consecutive Winter Series champion. That would be very exciting. But generally, the different cars, it does throw up some different results, because as much as we can say, oh, well, Jerez Simicic is taking part in this series as well, surely, because he dominated Michi Hoyer in the World Championship Series last year, he should be beating him, but there's no guarantee of that.
No, your mic again is going a bit haywire. I don't know what's up, but it's great to see guys like the likes of Jerez Simicic, Michi Hoyer driving here, Martin Gosby as well. We're seeing some old names as well. Obviously, Ivan Leonov, pro champion from this year, trying to prove his worth. The competition is definitely strong here, and what's on the winner of the total championship gets a free license for the 2019 series. So definitely we're seeing some drivers are willing to put some effort in not having to pay for another license for the next year.
Okay, we've tried the unplug and replug. We've tried the second option, which is to do it again. The third option is I'm trying a different USB port now, so hopefully that will work. And tell you what's working for Daniel Kish is a very nice time indeed. We were looking at sort of mid 117 from the practice session to say, okay, well, these are going to be the guys fighting for pole position. And he's hit that 117.5 mark, albeit only just a 5.97. Behind him, it's a pretty tightly packed field. Marek Godek with an outstanding lap so far of a 117.618. He's joined on the 0.6s with Martin Gosby and Michi Hoyer. Jerez Simicic, of course, who lost in that title race to our reigning champion D'Alessandro in the World Championship, of course. He rounds out the top 5 in what I'd say, apart from Godek, a front 5 which we would probably expect to see at the front of this field, given the rest of the names that we see throughout.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of these guys are almost veterans in the World Championship series. Daniel Kish has done a lot of races there for Musto and Netrex. Michi Hoyer, obviously. Martin Gosby, I think, might be the most experienced driver here on the grid, considering he's been driving since 2013, 2012 here in Formula Sim Racing. So definitely some very, very good drivers on the grid that will be trying to do some hard fighting here. for the front positions, and so far Daniel Kish has been the best.
You have some bubble drivers, as I like to call them, drivers that are looking pretty good on the potential side, but haven't quite broken through into the World Championship level just yet. The likes of Leonov and D'Amelio down there in P9 and P10. Also got some newer names, at least to myself, in Janos Braxok and Christian Lazaro. 6th and 7th, both very respectable times. Sandwiched in between those two duos is Robin Fredriksson, someone who I know very well from the touring car scene, actually, over in Race Room Racing Experience, if you know the Esports World Touring Car Cup. He has frequented that, and so a very good driver in his own right. But you've got to look down the rest of the pack, and there are some names which have popped up last year and in years gone by. Maybe not doing as well as they would have hoped. The likes of Danny van der Neet down in P16, I know Matt Tussen down there. Would you believe it? Andre Kunschmann as well, back in FSR down in P29. So the Winter Series drawing all sorts of interest. Last 5 minutes, though, our interest is firmly placed on who's going to be taking pole position. And so far, Godek has gotten close. But that 17.597 is going to be hard to beat. I'll be looking to the likes of Simičić, Gosby and Hoyer, those experienced World Championship players, to try and challenge him. Speaking of, Martin Gosby, pole position, provisional at least, a 1:17.462. That's a great lap. That's
definitely a great lap. Almost, well, over a tenth quicker than Daniel Kish did before. And down there, it's really close. Daniel Kish to Marek Godek's only 200ths of a second, then another 200 to Jerez Simoncic, and only 500ths to to Michi Hoyer, sorry. So it's extremely close. But then Martin Gosby just made that little extra step to put himself ahead of the rest of the guys for now.
So I'm just taking a little look at Marek Godek. I don't think he's on a lap, because ideally I'd like to go on board with someone to take you around the Jerez circuit, which, by the way, welcome to Jerez, round 1 of 4. Quite an interesting calendar. Taking a wide line there is Godek, so I presume he's winding up. The first of 4 rounds, like I say, we're going to Baku, Barcelona and Spielberg after this, but let us start off with Jerez. And into turn 1, it's Expo 92. Of course, Jerez, well known for being an F1 testing ground. Going a little bit wide there is Godek, a little slippy on exit. Turn 2 is the tight Michelin. It's a right-hander which you want to take as tightly as possible before going through the double left-handers. So turn 3 and then turn 4. It's a short reprieve, a little bit of a straight before we head into Sito Pons. And this corner, so important, because, oh, you line yourself up to go onto the back straight. It's one of the 2 DRS zones on this circuit, and Marek Godek gets it entirely wrong. And so we're going to have to try and pick up someone else to go on a lap.
I think Jerez Simoncic is still on an outlap, so he won't be the one to watch. Daniel Kish, maybe. I think he is on a lap. At least it seems he's pushing, coming through the last couple of corners. Out of the last quarter, coming to a start-finish straight. He is definitely on the lap.
That's a racing line.
Yep. Let's see what he can do, though.
Oh,
ooh, it's an improvement, yeah.
But not an improvement enough. It's a 5.50 for him. And let's take a look at other people then. I'm trying to find someone. Okay, let's pick up Robin Fredriksson, shall we? Who's currently P11. He's just gone through the end of the back straight, so that's Dreisack, and then through turn 7. The Swedish driver now entering the final part of the circuit, the left-hander of Aspar. You got to stay tight there and not be too overzealous on the accelerator outwards. Double right-hander here, Alex Creville, and then Angel Nieto, and then Pendoqui. This is Alex Creville, a fast right-hander. Again, you've got to stay so tight to the apex of these corners to get the ultimate line. Ferrari, followed up by the hairpin of Lorenzo Corner. I think Fredriksson is going to wind up to start his lap now, but he was pushing fair enough. So you've got a good idea of the track and its characteristics. And Fredriksson, he needs to find another 10th to fight his way now into the top 10. He's been forced out of it as a number of drivers have improved.
Yes, Jerez Simoncic is now also about to start his hot lap. Only 1 minute remaining, so I think this is going to be his final attempt. Maybe you can just do another lap after this, but definitely not another out lap and another hot lap. So it's gonna be very important, this final lap for Jerez Simoncic.
So where is he on circuit now? He's just coming round
The last couple of
the last couple of corners, yeah. So it's into the final sector now through Angel Nieto. Simoncic, who is just under 2/10 off Gosby. And it is a close field. To give you some perspective, the top 20 is separated by just over 9/10. So it's not like there are big margins to be found. Even the smallest of margins will probably see you jump up a couple of positions. There's a decent exit from Simoncic, using a lot of the outside of the circuit. Comes across the line and takes provisional pole position. That's a 17.387, a hugely impressive lap from the Slovenian. And now I see Godek in the garage, Brackstock in the garage. Michi Hoyer and Gosby, probably the only drivers within range who could even try and attempt something. Hoyer is just going to come around the final corner now. Let's see what the German can do. He was beaten so many times by Simoncic this year, and he's going to be beaten by him in qualifying at the beginning of the Winter Series. Our reigning champion will be starting P5 at best. And so now we look to Martin Gosby, the Brit, who will be looking to start actually his highest position, I think, in a year, I want to say. Because he struggled so much throughout the World Championship this year. His tyre eating.
Yeah, he's been
not coming. Yeah.
He's been up there in the qualifying for the World Championship, I think, a couple of rounds. Canada is one of them, I think, where he was top 5, but
yeah,
then in the race he just dropped down.
Oh!
But there we go.
He's top of the dogs now. Look at that, a 17.383. Martin Gosby beats out Simoncic by 0.04 of a second. I'm pretty sure he was third. I'm pretty sure that was his highest qualifying result in the World Championship last year. He starts off the Winter Series with a bang, beating out Jerez Simoncic. Jacob Reed, what a performance by him. P3, ahead of the experienced Daniel Kish. And I was saying that Michi Hoyer would be starting at best P5. Well, he's ended up in P8 because David Mrošek, Marek Godek, and Janos Braksok, that's a lot of... That's a lot of Scandinavian names coming through there. At least I hope so. But there's 3 of them ahead of Michi Hoyer. Now starting P8 is D'Amelio and Leonov rounding out the top 10. The likes of both Fredriksson's outside of the top 10. Van der Neet outside of the top 10. There's some big names that have been deposed by some very promising players.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great to see. That's what the Winter Series is for. It's for drivers to prove themselves to the likes of Formula Sim Racing, to prove themselves against the top drivers out of the last series. New drivers to show also what they can do to the current teams in Formula Sim Racing for the upcoming season. Obviously, that will be coming around March or April this year.
Now, I'm thinking we can do this one of 2 ways, Felix. We can either go to a break now and come back and talk about the format with a little bit of time to go before race, or we can talk about the format now and then go to a break before race. What do you fancy?
I'd say let's go for a break now and let everybody just calm down after that extremely exciting qualifying session. Then we'll come back to talk about the format and start the race immediately after that.
All right, that sounds good. So, coming up on your screen, we'll see some lovely pictures, the likes of more about Jerez, the car that we're using, of course, a Formula 2 spec. Lots of interesting info for you to digest. We'll be back very soon. So the weather outside might be a little bit chilly wherever you are. I guess Australia might not be so chilly. They're in the middle of summer, aren't they? But certainly our server is going to be a bit more like Australia. Nice and hot, nice and tense as well. There was a bit of surprise that Gosby took pole position. Which, by the way, if you missed it, Martin Gosby took pole position in the first round of this 2019 Winter Series. I'm James Kirk, joined by Felix van Delft, and I guess we should really go through what is going to be coming the rest of the evening in terms of our format. We're using F2 cars, and we're using a very F2 style format. We're going to be seeing 2 races, a feature, and a sprint. The first of these races is going to be 20 minutes. Oh, sorry, I lied. The first of these races is going to be 30 minutes in length. All drivers have to start on the tyre compound that they used in qualifying. So there's none of this top 10 exclusivity or anything. You've got to be careful, and you've got to consider the strategy before you've even stepped inside that car for qualifying. And in terms of compounds, well, you've got to use 2 dry compounds in the race. So at least 1 pit stop is pretty much guaranteed. Race 2 is going to half in length. We're going to see 15 minutes of racing action. It is very much going to be a sprint to the finish. There's no need to pit stop. There's no need to use 2 compounds or whatever. Start, finish, do what you want. It's up to you, as long as you do your best to finish first, I guess, is the general idea. And there are different points structures as well. I know that they can confuse some, but the general idea is the top 15 will score points in the feature race. Only the top 10 will score points in the sprint race, although the difference in points there is first in race 1 will take 25, first in race 2 will only take 15. So, Felix, there is a lot of strategy going on about where you want to place your priorities. I know that there are certain drivers that will definitely prefer to finish middle of the pack in race 1, thinking, well, hey, in race 2 I can do a pretty good job, because of course we do have a reverse grid in race 2 as well, with the top 10 to 15 being reversed. It's a random number. It always throws up a bit of excitement, but you're playing with a bit of fire there, aren't you? Because no matter what way you look at it, you're going to be scoring less points in race 2.
Yeah, definitely. You obviously want to find that kind of balance where you think you can do well in the first race, or well enough in the first race to score enough points to then also be in a good position in the second race to there score as much point as you optimally would be able to. It's a fine balance, and it's nice to have that switch around with the grids, because it mixes everything up. It puts the top field drivers, the Martin Gosbys, the Jerez Simrac's, right at the back of the field, at least considering they will probably be at the top of the first or second at the end of the first race, and then it will drop back to the back of that grid, or at least the middle of that grid, and then stir everything up. And that's something that's really interesting. It's gonna be tense for them as well, because they will be put into a field where they would normally not be driving. They won't be really used to the kind of drivers, a little bit less experienced drivers that are driving back there. But I'm sure they will try to fight their way through it. But first, of course, we have the feature race.
And let's think about the poor souls who are going to be fighting over 10th and 15th. Okay, you're rewarded somewhat no matter where you finish in those 5 positions, because you're going to be scoring points. That's, generally a good thing in a championship, right? But I so many a time have I commentated on a race with randomly reverse generated grids.
Right.
And so many of a time have I seen people being like, oh, it'd be great if I get this number, and then they're only 1 place outside what the hat brings. And so you've really got to be careful. Honestly, the best position to finish in, I would say, if you're looking at the sprint race, is P10, because then you're at least guaranteed a promotion up to the front of the grid. But like you say, sprint race comes later. Feature race comes first.
Exactly.
And a fascinating front row. We have someone who has won races, who's taken pole positions plenty of times in 2018, Jerez Simracing, up against Martin Gosby, who I wouldn't say he needs a bit of a reboot or a restart, but he suffered in 2018 because of the nature of the tyres.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the tires on these cars are still not the same as we had in 2018, but they are similar the way they work. If you overheat them in 1 lap, then the next at least 1 or 2 laps you're gonna have to suffer from that mistake that you made from overheating them. They are very sensitive. Once they are overheated, they lose a lot of their grip and also a lot of their wear. So you need to be careful to not over push them, but of course you want to find that limit. So we're gonna have to see if Gosby will be able to find that balance here with the Formula 2 style car and the Winter Series here.
And leading off the pack then will be the Brit in a very 2016-esque McLaren. What was it? 2017. They ran orange and black or grey for 1 year, and it reminds me of that. But hoping for better fortunes than that McLaren will Martin Gosby be. Jerez Simoncic, second in the World Championship in 2018, will start alongside him in P2 with Jacob Reed. A brilliant effort to come home P3. Daniel Kish will be joining him on the second row of the grid, P4, with Darren Mojek, P5, and Marek Godek, a very impressive effort from him, P6. Janos Braksok will be P7, mostly because he's beaten out the experienced World Championship runner Michi Hoyer. All the way down in P8 is our reigning Winter Series champion, need I remind you. And then they were battling throughout qualifying, and they've ended up alongside each other, Luca D'Amelio and Ivan Leonov, P9 and P10. Christian Lazaro is P11 with Ton van Egmond, P12. We have the two Fredriksson brothers, you can't separate them, P13 and P14, Robin ahead of Daniel. Kostas Galonomatis will start P15 with Fabian Ruth, P16. We then have Giuseppe Saracino, P17, with Danny Van Den Ee all the way down in P18. He'll be disappointed with that. Rounding out the top 20 will be Boris Bod and Jan Woznicka. And then our final 10 drivers are Herman Stocci, P21, with Roma Dissing, P22. Matt Legales, P23, with Matt Tussen down in P24. Harry Graham will be P25, with Indrek Remets, P26. Ahead of Adam Rainey, that's P27 and P28. And rounding out the grid, a surprise return for Andre Kunchman, who I believe is starting on the soft tyres as well, so a different strategy for him. And James Juba is rounding out the grid down there in P30, also starting on the softs.
All right, so interesting to see those two guys starting on the softs at the back of the grid. Obviously, Andre Kunchman, an infamous figure almost for the Formula Sim Racing Championships, but he's going to prove himself once again here. But it's time for the lights.
And we're going to look up to them now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The Winter Series 2019 is underway here at Formula Sim Racing, and it is a brilliant start from Martin Gosby. From Jerez Simoncic, jumped Gosby at the line. Already carnage. Gosby's looking to fight back into turn 2. He's got the inside line, and he's got Simoncic as well. Brilliant rebuttal from the Brit. And Jacob Reed is the one who's really suffered in and amongst all that. He's fallen from P3 down to P5. Hoyer's made up a position, but goes super wide there. As we enter the middle sector, he's able to hold on to P8. Godek as well with an awful start down to P10. Who was suffering there? I see Woznicka, Legales, Remet, and Graham and Singh all involved in that early accident. And in fact, it's Woznicka, our first retirement already. We're not even halfway around the lap.
Yeah, great start at the front. Amazing battling in the first couple of corners between Jerez Simoncic and Martin Gosby. In the back, there was some carnage already at the start. The start lights going off. Not sure exactly what happened, but the rest of the field seems to have gone through relatively cleanly, considering it is 30 drivers here around this relatively tight little track of Jerez.
And so, first rotation completed, and Martin Gosby leads by a healthy margin, it must be said. I think that's 1 second, indeed it is. By the end of lap 1, it's Simoncic, Mojek, Kish, Reed, Braksok, Leonov, Hoyer, D'Amelio, and Lazaro rounding out your top 10. And Hoyer immediately under more pressure as well. Even Leonov, who's done well in the lower categories over 2018, actually. That's across all sim racing. Looking to pile on the pressure for the experienced German. D'Amelio and Lazaro holding on as well. Danny Fredriksson's made a good start up to P11. Robin Fredriksson not really made up too much ground. And it looks like Tucson and Van der Niet are also out of this race already, dropping like flies. Tissing into the pits, the Galles into the pits as well. And looking for a move there. Who's that? Up there is Danny Fredriksson and Tom Van Egmond battling away. And Van Egmond on exit of Dry Sack, and he's going to complete the move around the outside of turn 7. That's an impressive display from Van Egmond, who stylishly moves his way up into P11.
Yeah, Daniel Fredriksson after that immediately made a small mistake going onto the grass and dropped another position to Marek Godek there, who is now up to P13. Now Kostas Galamata is right behind them in P15, also looking feisty, trying to find a place to go past him. Almost finds the gap in the last corner there, the hairpin. Now the exit is very important. The driver right behind them, Giuseppe Saracino, also looking to make the move. No DRS yet, it's only the second lap. Our apologies, by the way, the lap timer isn't working properly. Obviously we have a time which is 30 minutes. I will keep you updated on that, as there won't be fixed for now on the top of the overlay, unfortunately.
Got to keep an eye up on P2 and P3 though. Mrozek lining up a move on Jone Simoncic, and Simoncic forced to defend, and he's got to be careful, Felix, because talking of that DRS, it comes into effect on lap 3, and if he is not within a second of Martin Goldsby, then he is not going to have it at his disposal to defend. And that straight, it might not be the longest in the world, but it is still going to have a super hard effect, because it's the entire length of the straight, if I'm correct. And so Mrozek will have a lot of power, will have a lot of advantage under his wings, although look at Simoncic really starting to pull away in the final sector of this lap at least. Mrozek will be doing well to keep within touching distance. Danny Kish, Jacob Reed, and Janos Braksok really watching brief. Michi Hoyer in a world of his own, and then it's the rest of the pack pretty much. Leonov leading them off in P8.
Oh, Andre Kunschmann has hit the wall. He's driving without a rear wing, looking to get into the pit lane. Might be able to repair his car, but that car looks heavily damaged, and I think that might be the end of his feature race. Still, a sprint race is coming up, of course, after this, so he might be able to join back in there, although it will be at the back of the grid for that race as well.
He's one of only 2 soft tyre runners. The only other one was Schuper, who's down in P20 at the moment. So we'll see if that strategy comes into play. It's a shame that we don't see how Kunschmann's race turns out in the long run without this incident, of course.
Yeah.
But Gosby, I noticed, dropped a bit of time in that first sector, and so Simoncic was able to use the DRS to slowly drag him back in. And I think this is the worry for Gosby now, is he's done super well to lead this race as he has been doing, but he really needs to open up a gap when it comes to that second DRS zone down the back straight, because it's only then when Mrozek is going to have an opportunity to attack Simoncic, and Simoncic will be forced to defend. It looks like Gosby's done very well over the course of this last sector, again opening up the gap to over a second. He now needs to maintain that and just hope that Mrozek forms a good enough challenge so that he can start to pull away even further.
Daniel Kishin P4 is also still keeping on the pressure on the drivers in front of him, looking to find that place to make the move. Maybe he's a bit waiting a bit back behind this little train of Jone Simoncic and David Mrozek. Let them fight, let them try to catch up to Gosby, let them do the hard work, and then I'll just slot back in and take my chance when it shows itself.
So Simoncic let off a little bit actually by that battle, since Mrozek was not necessarily looking to defend off Kish, because since he had DRS himself, of course.
Yeah.
But not close enough to Simoncic to really make that much of an impact. And like you say, Reed, Braxnock, Hoyer as well there, they're all still pretty close. And I can't help feeling that the pit stop strategy is going to help determine this, because that's the one question mark we have over Martin Gosby's lead at the moment. He's leading just fine, and once it comes to defending, I'm sure he's going to do fine at that as well. But How long are those tyres going to last in comparison to everyone else? Has he finally sorted out his issues that plagued him throughout 2018? Or is he going to have to stop earlier? Is he going to have to use a harder compounded tyre than everyone else? It's a fascinating question, and I hope for his sake that he has sorted things out, because he's in with such a good chance of winning this race. Probably his best chance in over a...
Yeah, definitely. It's been a long time since he's won a race. I'm sure he's hungry.
Silverstone 2017, I think, was the last one.
Yeah, pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure he's really hungry for another win, and it's definitely not that this Winter Series has no competition. Jerez, Simončić, Daniel Kish, Michi Hoyer, all driving here against him, and he's doing the best job so far.
I think you definitely have to say, wouldn't you, that the favourites going into this would be those aforementioned three. Martin Gosby, a bit of a peripheral figure. You think if he has a good campaign, then he's got as much chance as everyone else, but that's the thing. It's a big if.
Yep.
And we're only, we've just passed actually the 8-minute marker of this 30-minute race. So ideally on these super soft tyres, Felix, how far would you be hoping to go into the feature? 15 minutes max?
Yeah, something like that. You would think so, indeed. Usually you want to go onto the other compound. We're now just...
Oh, hello. Michi Hoyer.
Yeah.
Michi Hoyer has dropped a lot of positions, and I'm going to have a little look back to see what happened, because he was in no man's land. He just lost it on the edge of the first turn. That was completely his fault, and he's now dropped outside of the top 10. And he's still looking really ragged, and he's got 3 black and red cars. Robin Fredriksson, Godek, and Danny Fredriksson all lining up moves on him.
Yeah, let's see if I can quickly go for a replay what happened with Michi. Here we go, coming into, what is that, turn?
It's turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1.
He just drops it on the outside.
Yeah. Drops it on the outside, spins around, hits the wall. Luckily doesn't lose his front wing, but loses a lot of positions.
And Simončić. Huh? Simončić, I think, has dropped it as well. Yeah. He's down to P5. And let's see, he was middle sector. Peloquy, he's done exactly the same thing as Michi Hoyer, except at Peloquy rather than the first turn. And so this is completely opened the gates for Martin Gosby to run away. He now has a 2.3 second lead over the man behind him, which is now David Mrozek, who continues to do astoundingly well. It's Kish and Reed, and then Simončić even further back. He's not even within DRS range of Reed ahead, and he's in fact got Braxock behind him for company with DRS of his own. What has happened to ACR? They've imploded in one lap. Yeah,
it's all fallen to pieces here. Not exactly sure why. Maybe it's some coordinated failure. I don't know. Maybe somebody placed a booby trap. Flag to flag. Cameron, what did you do? But yeah, dropping back like stones right now. Maybe they can fight back, but looking very good for Martin Gosby as for now.
Further retirements, by the way, to let you know of. Matt Legales eventually had to retire with suspension damage. Same for Roma Tissing, and Giuseppe Salicino just retired. I'm guessing that might be with a disconnection, perhaps. Dropping like flies in this first race of the season. But flying away is Martin Gosby. The gap between himself and Mrozek now over 3 seconds in length. And for Gosby, this is probably as good as it could possibly get, Felix, because perhaps now he doesn't have to worry so much about pushing hard. He can just worry about preserving those tyres and giving himself the best strategy. Is Mrozek? I think Mrozek is disconnected.
Yeah, I think so. He disconnected.
Nobody wants P2. Nobody wants P2. And so Danny Kish now in the cursed position with Jacob Reed on the podium.
It's really almost conspiracy theory here. All of the ACR drivers have had an issue basically in the last minute. Michi Hoyer, Jerez Simončić, David Mrozek all have had issues now, dropping back 2 positions. Well, they were, was it 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, and they're now 4th, 10th and DNF.
Retired. Yeah.
Wow.
That is rather shocking indeed. Not a great start. Thankfully for Simoncic, he didn't hit the wall in his incident, and so his car is still pretty good. I'd say it's probably his tyres that would be suffering more. And you can see that because Braxok is certainly still catching him. However, both of them are reeling in Jacob Reed. For Krik and Gosby, as long as they can keep it out the wall, this should be easy points guaranteed as we have our first pitters of the day, Robin Fredriksson and Marek Godek, as Joni Simoncic is past Jacob. And I'm guessing that must have been a mistake from Reed at the edge of turn 1 again.
Pretty sure. Daniel Kish is also not too far away from the likes of Jacob Reed and Joni Simoncic.
So let's see what tyres these guys are coming out on actually. So Fredriksson chooses the soft, and what does Godek choose? Godek chooses the softs as well. That seems like a pretty sensible decision. There's no real need to use the mediums around this circuit. It's not the most tyre consuming as long as you drive it correctly.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense to me, and it's a good time to pit as well. 13 minutes out of 30 completed. We're just it's an early pit stop though. I think they're looking to perform the undercut to try and force their ways into the top 10. We'll see how that plays out. Will it force the hands of any? Certainly not of Martin Gosby and Danny Kish, who continue around for another lap. Same for Simoncic and Braxok. Braxok now in P4, but Jacob Reed, his tyres are done. He becomes our first pitter within the top 5.
Yeah, first pitter after 16 or after 15 minutes.
13 limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. D'Amelio, Danny Fredriksson, Von Egmond, and Hoyer all joining them as well. Jacob Reed out on soft tyres. And where does Jacob Reed rejoin the circuit now? Because this will give us a good indication of where the front runners are. He rejoins in P8. That is not bad at all. Right behind Gallo-Matis. So for the likes of Braxok, Simoncic, Kish, and Gosby, they'll be hoping to stay ahead of Gallo-Matis, and that's a great gap to go into, Felix, because there's 7 seconds between himself and Leonov, who now occupies 6th.
Yeah. So it's now waiting to see what will the other guys do. Jacob Reed is stuck a little bit behind Gallo-Matis, but after that he's got a lot of clean air if he can get past Gallo-Matis quickly enough. However, Gallo-Matis is not making it easy on him.
Why would he? He's helping himself for later on.
Of course, yeah.
This is very frustrating for Jacob Reed, though. I mean, he's basically shot himself in the foot and given his rivals ahead of him all the information they need about when they can pit. I mean, technically they could pit now, but... And that's exactly what the likes of Lazaro and Leonov are doing. They're coming in so tail, the two of them. But the front 4 are deciding, now we can go on a little bit further, which I guess is a pretty safe strategy. They know that Gallo-Matis, well, Gallo-Matis is actually pitted now, so for them, they've got no worries. They're going to be pitting into clean air, probably ahead of... And the later they pit, the better their tyres will be at the end, of course. And I tell you what, it's worked beautifully for Tom van Egmond. Look at this, up to P8. That's the undercut beautifully executed as... Oh, Leonov... not D'Amelio, Leonov and Lazaro, sorry. Fighting side by side through the first sector. It's going to be Leonov coming out on top. They've... no, I lie, sorry, it's Lazaro coming out top. That's the order which they entered the pits in, by the way. So, not much has changed there, although Leonov was close.
And in the meantime, also Simoncic made his pit stop.
He did. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
All right, that's weird. All right. I'm being lied to by my own plugin. Simoncic is still out.
No, they're not. They're all of the top 4 are in. All of the top 4 are in. Just gone past the 15-minute marker. And so surely all of these guys are going to go onto soft tyres, I would imagine. That's a sensible choice, yes. Simoncic just coming in. Gosby going... Ow, Gosby just beating out Danny Kish. That 3-second gap has evaporated. And all of a sudden, a battle for the lead is on pit exit.
Yep, it's now a question who can warm up those tyres quick enough to make them nice in race condition. Softer tyres, obviously a little bit more difficult to do that, but should be doable for both of these drivers. Martin Gosby now under full pressure from Daniel Kish.
And he's going to have DRS as well as the Hungarian as we head down the back straight and towards dry stack, the hairpin of turn 6. No attempt at the maneuver just yet. He's going to hope to follow him closely around this third sector where, to be fair, Felix, it is difficult to overtake around here, isn't it? But it's not impossible, especially I'm looking at the next corner here, Angle Nieto, where if you're feeling brave, if you are close enough, if you've been following them through the curve at Asper, you can launch something up the inside. It's a risk.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk, but it's doable.
So completing the final sector now. Coming into the hairpin, and it seems like Gosby has gained a bit of an advantage, of course, if you follow too closely around that final sector, and it is fine margins around this Jerez circuit, then you're going to end up encountering a lot more dirty air than perhaps you bargained for, and it's going to really make you suffer around turns 11 and turn 12, fast right-handed, where you really need the downforce to be working for you. Danny Kish, though, was using the DRS zone of the home straight to reel Gosby back in, so now around, there's a little bit more stop-start first sector. You can look to potentially line up another attempt to the move down the back straight, and I think it is going to be this back straight which will see the victor come out successful, either by Kish overtaking Gosby or by Gosby getting enough of an advantage so that the DRS isn't too much of an aspect. It certainly wasn't that time around. Gosby doing absolute wonders around there. How much can you change the wings on these cars, Felix? Because it seems to me like Gosby's running a lower downforce setup.
I think it's pretty much open setup for everyone, so I'm not sure if you can change them as much as you would be able to do in a regular season car, but definitely there's room for quite a bit of change in the downforce levels and definitely also in the top speed levels, so it could well be that Martin Gosby is running that lower downforce setup just to make sure he has that higher top speed here.
So, everyone has made their pit stops across the board, so now will probably be a good time as we approach the 20-minute mark, 2/3 of the way through this feature race, where everyone stands, and where everyone could stand, potentially, at the end of the race. It's Gosby who continues to lead, but his 3-second gap has now evaporated, despite Mojek disconnecting, despite Simičić falling off the road. Danny Kish is in hot pursuit. The aforementioned Simičić, though, rounds out the podium currently ahead of Janos Braksok, having an incredible race ahead of Jacob Reed, who really suffered looking to perform the undercut / defend from the undercut. Either way, it didn't work out for him, but he's still in P5. D'Amelio Van Egmond, who did make the undercut work. Leonov and Hoyer round out the top 10. And remember, it's a randomly generated number between 10 and 15, which determines the reverse grid number for race number 2. And Hoyer starts those drivers. Both Fredrikssons, Robin and Daniel, who actually exchanged positions here. Danny going past Robin for P11 and P12. Fabian Ruth, who's just making his way past Kostas Galanamatis, that's for P13 and P14. And Boris Bon, who's trying to defend off Alistair Khan. Bon currently rounds out those top 15. Also, reminder, top 15 score points as well. So for Alistair Khan, it would be a decent start for him, starting right at the back, if I remember correctly, in the bottom 4. So having a good race is Alistair, actually, and taking P15 would be the cherry on the cake. But we have to continue to look back up to the front, because these two really are nose to tail, Felix. And maybe Danny Kish just choosing to bide his time, because if we know anything about Gosby, is once the degradation comes, it's going to come in heaps and bounds, and maybe Kish just waiting for his moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would do, at least. Now you know you can be close to Gosby, but maybe it's not the best choice to make that attack now when there's still 9 minutes remaining in this race. You just wait a little bit, and then when the moment presents itself, take advantage of it and try to win the race then.
Chat audience, I apologise, I lied to you. Boris Bon hadn't actually made his pit stop yet. And so Alistair Khan is gifted P15, and great news for him is that he's got 8 seconds to P16. Herman Stocci currently occupying that position, but deep in battle with Indrek Remet. So it's looking better and better by the minute for Mr. Khan. Rounding the final corner once more then is Gosby and Kish. Let's take a little look back at Simic and Braxok has remained this close for pretty much the last 5 laps, I'd say. But Braxok not got the ultimate pace, probably, to overtake Simic. And I guess Simic at this point just happy with third. If there's any mistakes further on up the road, then he will look to capitalise. Everyone else a little bit more spread out. So really, it is first and second and third and fourth. The closest battles on track with points at stake.
And Mitchell Hoyer and Ivan Leonov also still pretty close for P10.
Yeah, you're not wrong, actually.
The pro champion versus the...
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, for Hoyer, is this not... It's not exactly a bad position if he overtakes Leonov, because he's guaranteed a good position for race 2 regardless.
Yeah,
in fact, he could be on pole position in race 2.
Yeah. So... I don't know, Michi will probably try to get past Leonov here. Couldn't really do it with the DRS in the back straight. But he is very close and looking to find that gap.
It's an extra point, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Regardless of what you might think, an extra point in this championship could be the difference between winning it and losing it. It's only 4 rounds, so there's not that much deviation that can happen. You can't just drop a couple of races and think, oh, I'll make that up in the second half of the season. The second half of the season is 2 races.
Exactly.
So if you drop one here, then that's a quarter of your season effectively gone.
Exactly. So, Michi
and almost dropping it.
Yeah.
Got to be careful. He doesn't want to throw it away again. I'm surprised that car's still doing as well as it could, because it did hit the wall.
Yeah, it did. I'm really surprised that he's doing so well so far. But still, P10 could have been P5 if he didn't make that mistake earlier in the race. Daniel Kish is closing in again.
He is, isn't he? But it seems to be a similar situation to Braxok and Simic, where it's... I do wonder whether they've got different wing setups. Because Kish, if they were on similar wing setups, then Kish should have been able to at least get within 3/10 and then potentially mount a challenge in the second half of the circuit on Gosby. But every single time he's been in the DRS zone, and every single time he's not really made that much of an impact. And Gosby's been able to pull away beautifully in this last sector. A puzzle that Kish has to solve in the next 6 minutes if he wants to win this first race of the 2019 FSR season, let alone the 2019 winter season, of course.
Right, yeah.
Simic, Braxok, and Reed still rounding out the top 5. Shout out to Reed, by the way. He's some 8 seconds off the top 4 now, but he's still going strong. Probably looking more behind him at Luca D'Amelio, who's in P6. Good 3 seconds behind. Van Egmond and Lazaro. They have done wonderfully well. The pit stop strategy working beautifully, and actually Lazaro as well, after defending off such a strong challenge from Leonov after the pit stop, he's pulled away by 4 seconds, and I know that's probably in part to Michi Hoyer mounting a challenge on Leonov himself, but fair play to Christian, he's done super well.
Hoyer's is still struggling to get somewhere close, or he's close to Ivan Leonov, but he can't really get himself into a position where he can make the move on Ivan.
Well, I'm wondering whether his suspension damage is what's hurting him now, because I'm 90% sure that he can't reach the top speed that he would on a clean car. In which case, that's affecting his DRS zone potential, in which case, that's probably preventing him from lining up any sort of move down that back straight, unless Leonov was to make a mistake. It's a tough situation to be in, but I think let's look at it positively for Hoyer. It could have been a lot worse.
It could definitely have been a lot worse. If he lost his front wing whilst he hit the wall, or maybe even worse suspension damage, then it would have been maybe end of his race. Maybe he would have dropped back, had to do a pit stop. It wasn't turn 1 after all, so he would have had to do the whole lap if he lost his front wing without that front wing. So would have definitely hurt him a lot more. I think he's gonna have to be, well, maybe not happy to be here in P10, but relieved that it isn't worth.
Now, has Mr. Braxok made a mistake? Because he has lost 2.8 seconds to Jernej Simic, who himself seems to have turned on the nitro button, because he is starting to close down Martin Gosby and Daniel Kish at a rate of knots. The gap now within 1.8 seconds. Danny Kish, has he been waiting for his moment? Has he not had an opportunity? Either way, those rearview mirrors are going to become greener and greener in the next couple of minutes because the Slovenian, well, he's on a bit of a charge, and I think he fancies his chances for the win still.
Yeah, I think he would definitely not be just sitting back taking P3 now. He's definitely going to try and fight for it here with Daniel Kish and Martin Gosby.
He could be within DRS zone of Kish, actually, once we hit the second sector.
Yeah, I think he already is.
He was 4 thousandths out by the line. So it's once we hit this sector beam now where we'll see. No, actually, Daniel Kish has been able to pull out a bit more. So Simoncic won't have DRS. Oh, actually, the rear flap has opened.
Yeah, so he does.
So through that final corner, he must have found something. And so he closes up a little bit to the 2 ahead of him. I guess good. This might actually end up being good news for Gosby, though. There's only 3 minutes remaining. And actually, a challenge to Kish from Simoncic would probably allow Gosby the relief that he needs.
Yeah.
So final couple of minutes, actually. So a reminder, once the timer hits 30 minutes, it's the end of that lap, which will end up being the final lap, I guess. And so we're keeping a BDI on it. It's 28 minutes as we speak, so actually we might hit the 30 minutes. If not this lap, then next lap, certainly.
Yeah, it's gonna
be tight.
Yeah.
I know, it seems like Jerez Simoncic made a bit of a mistake in that final sector again, since he's now lost about, I want to say 7/10 through that final sector, really struggling. Braxock has fallen completely off the pace. And these soft tyres seemingly proving troublesome for a couple of drivers. I mean, Gosby and Kish are the only two which I've seen who really haven't struggled that much throughout this entire race.
Yeah, seemingly they have been able to manage those tires pretty well. And Gosby doing a good job at it, knowing that he struggled a lot with it back in the 2018 season. However, Kish seems to be getting closer than he was before.
He does, and actually look at that, Fabian Ruth forced into a second pit stop for the day. So the tyres really are proving troublesome. It's the 2 softest compounds that we've seen throughout this entire race. No sign of the mediums as of yet. Are we going to see a sign of the checkered flag, though? It is going to be mightily close. Has Gosby timed this to perfection, or will he have to go around another lap?
Yeah, he has to go
another lap.
Yep.
It is going to have to be.
There's a back marker in front of him now. Hopefully he doesn't get into the way of this fight.
That was deep braking from Gosby as well. It's Fabian Ruth who's come out ahead of them. Although he's a little bit off the road, he's a little bit up the road. 30 minutes has now hit. And so confirmation that we are on the final lap then. Gosby still ahead of Danny Kish. Jerez Simoncic, he's not part of this fight anymore unless there is calamity abound in the next minute or so. Again, no opportunity for Kish to attack into the hairpin. That DRS has been pretty ineffective throughout this entire race. And I imagine that's in part to Gosby's setup. Something must be good on that car, whether it's diffuser, whether it's grip off corners, whether it's wings. He's absolutely nailed it today. And unless there is a last mistake into the hairpin within Gosby, then he should have this one in the bag round Alex Creville and Ferrari. It's just the final braking zone of Lorenzo to nail, which he does. Oh, and there's a back marker there. Gosby navigates it, thankfully, as does Kish. A bit of late drama there. But he wins for the first time in over a year. It's Martin Gosby, our first winner of 2019, our first winner of the Winter Series. 25 points goes to you, sir. And what an impressive race that was. In the first half, he pulled away. In the second half, he defended with aplomb from Danny Kish, who takes second place. Jerez Simoncic, after that mistake, comes home P3 with Janos Braxock. What a performance from him, P4. Jacob Reed all on his own in P5 with Emilio, Van Egmond, Lazaro, Leonov, And Hoyer rounding out the top 10, and it's Hoyer who will start off our potential reverse grid candidates. He'll be joined by Danny Fredriksson in P11, Robin Fredriksson in P12, Kostas Galonomatis in P13, Indrek Remets in P14, and good old Alistair Khan will be coming home in P15. It's a slim chance that we'll see him further up the grid in race number 2, but at least he scores a point, Felix.
Exactly. It's been a hell of a feature race here. Very exciting and very tense at the front between Martin Gosby, Danny O'Kish, Jurnej Simicic, who had that incident in the middle stage of the race, managed to fight back up to P3, but not able to overtake Danny O'Kish or Martin Gosby. Martin Gosby first win, like you said, since Silverstone 2017. Fun fact, Danny O'Kish also hasn't won a race since Marina Bay Street Circuit 2017. So Kish might be able to try and go for the win here in the sprint race. It will be difficult as he is starting right from the back of the top 10. But maybe next race he will be trying to go for that win, which he hasn't had since 2017.
So we now go into a warm-up session of 10 minutes in length. We're going to find out the identity of our reverse grid pole position winner / taker. It's a lot of luck, to be fair, but you've also had to earn it kind of through being in the... I'm rambling. 15-minute sprint race is coming after this break. All of that, all of the news coming up after this break. See you soon. It was a short break, wasn't it? Welcome back to the Winter Series, where the pace here is fast and furious, and very soon we'll be bringing to you the Fast and Furious race number 2. It's not called a sprint for a reason. It's 15 minutes in length, half of what we saw in race number 1. Compounds, anyone can use whatever. And of course, we have the legendary reverse grid to come, of which we're going to be deciding that right now. I'm James Kirk, I'm joined by Felix van Delft, and we are delighted to have us joined in the box by race director, Mr. Cameron Roger. Cam, how are you doing? How was your new year?
Oh, it's very well, thank you. Yeah, I had a good time, good last week or so. But obviously, we're busy in the background setting up everything for this and also the 2019 season, which more information will come out probably just after the Winter Series ends.
Soon trademarked.
Yes, the very phrase that is used too often.
Speaking of soon, actually, I believe that you have the honour of revealing to both us, the audience, and the drivers, all of us. There we go. James can use words. Reverse grid number. Would you do the honours?
So I've got a random number generator between 10 and 15, and this will be at the point with which we reverse the grid. So I'm just going to press it now. It's probably not going to be too exciting, but the number is number 13.
Which means that 13. Costas Gallinumatis will be on pole position, with the two Fredriksson brothers behind him. Michi Hoyer starts 4th.
Not too bad.
Poor old Indrik and Alistair missing out there, but that is the luck of the reverse grid pole position. Sometimes you will get it, sometimes you will not. You've got to work as hard as you can to get inside the top 10 at the very least. And for Gallinumatis, it was interesting. I was watching him in the chat. He was talking about how he was struggling with tyre wear a lot near the end. So maybe this would be the opportunity for him to maybe have a top 3, top 5 at best. You never know what can happen in these sprint races.
Yeah, sprint races are always hectic things, especially 15 minutes. Drivers will be probably starting either the soft or the super soft tires, which they will be just driving the hell out of, because they don't have to pit. Well, probably don't have to pit for tires, and it's basically all just for position. No pit stops, not really a lot of strategy, just plain battling, which will be harsh. And obviously the top guys are starting from P13. Martin Gosby will be starting P13, Kish P12, Simoncic P11, and they have to get past all those, well, I wouldn't say mediocre drivers, but midfield drivers that are in between there. Also Michi Hoyer, Ivan Leonov in between there. That will be drivers that won't be giving the positions for free to the other guys, obviously, and they have the experience to also fight them. So it will be very exciting, very interesting to see what will happen. Hopefully everything will stay nice and clean.
Well, actually, since you're still here, Cam, I know you're going to have to go off and do race direction again, and goodness do I feel like you're going to need all of the focus that you can get. But in terms of the difference between sprint and feature, what do you hope to see as a director? Do you kind of expect that the sprint race is going to be a little bit more hectic, a little bit more chaotic, that you'll be, a bit more busy than with the feature, or do you kind of take every race as it comes anyway and just hope for the best?
Well, I often come into these races not expecting, or expecting the unexpected, because whenever those lights go out, anything can happen. These drivers like, and especially as there's sort of something to fight for as well. You're going to get people doing some interesting moves, and obviously with only 15 minutes, you're going to need to make your moves a lot quicker.
Of course. Well, I don't know how quick do you have to. How can you join us for the last 2.5 minutes of warm up, or what do you need to do?
I'm just currently setting up the grid in the correct order. Obviously, there's quite a few names to move around.
Here's the thing: the race director is such a pivotal role, and it's the things sound so simple, but I've never been able to get my head around it. It's why I'll never be a race director. I shout at things. That's my job.
I mean, yeah, it's just something I jumped into back in 2017. I became the race director, as there was sort of no one. There was a WCM Pro director, there's no one going for Ace, so I was like, all right, I'll jump in and do that, and it was good fun. So back here for what will be my 3rd year this year doing it, and yeah, I mean it's good fun. You just have to have a bit of well, you got to be ready to make decisions quickly.
And actually, for anyone out there who's interested in the behind-the-scenes element of FSR, whether it be on broadcasts or the mod or getting rFactor to work in the first place, what would be the best route for them to display their interest and to get involved for the first time?
So the best would be go onto the forums, and there is a post which I think is in the announcement section for registering your interest to help this year, or join our Discord channel, which is also linked to the top of the forums. There's a button to click on, and then you'll find my tag, and then you can message me, and then I will find you a role. I mean, there's obviously a number of roles. There's race directors, broadcasters, be it cameras or commentary. There's stewards, just generally people behind the scenes to help with, you know, the overlays or doing bits and bobs here and there, pictures, social media. So there's a lot that can be done. We have a good group of people, but we would, we'd appreciate any extra help that you may want to give. So yeah, just give me a PM, and we can discuss any deals further.
Beautiful. Well, Cam, we'll let you get back to your job. Thank you so much for joining us and for revealing the identity of the reverse grid pole position. And I like to have this conversation a lot, Felix, about drivers who are not used to being up at the front. There's often 2 ways that it can go. There's often 3 ways it could go, rather. You take it in your stride and you end up doing really well. You panic and throw away the majority of the positions that you gained in the reverse grid, or you kind of go middle of the road and you end up having a safe start and an unspectacular race which sees you score maybe more points than you would have had you been starting lower down the field. I'm looking at the 2 Fredrickson brothers, and I think they're going to be okay. They're very experienced sim racers and real-life racers, so I feel like they're going to be okay. But for Kostas Gallon-Matis, slightly different scenario. I'm not sure how much experience he's had previously, but certainly in the FSR scene, this will be new territory for him.
Yeah, he's driven the Pro Championship, if I'm not mistaken, or the Ace, at least either the Pro or Ace Championship last year, where we saw that he has the raw pace, definitely. As far as I know, he's got quite a lot of knowledge about setting up the cars as well. But he just couldn't all stick it together into one nice puzzle that makes him get the good positions. He has elements that are great, some great skills, but hasn't been really able to show everything in a complete picture yet.
Will he be able to take the high quality photo that he desires this time around? Well, we are about to find out. The timer has hit 0 on free practice. And very soon we'll be moving into our second and final race of the evening. 15 minutes in length. It is going to be over before your eyes could process it, but that is the beauty of these races. You have to, like Cam was saying, drivers need to get their moves done a lot quicker. They can't play the long game like we saw from a couple of drivers in race 1. And also, the point structure is different, of course. So whereas it was the top 15 scoring points in race number 1, it's now only the top 10. And those points have been diminished as well. So it's gone from 25 points for a win to only 15. Whereas P15 was scoring 1 point, now it is P10. So getting into those top 10 positions, it was kind of good. If you were in race number 1, you were scoring decent points. You were pretty much guaranteed a decent flip in the reverse grid. But now, if you don't finish in the top 10, then is there much worry about where you finish at all?
Yeah, exactly. So people are going to be fighting. 30 drivers still here on the server, or 29. One driver has left, unfortunately. But a lot of drivers that are still trying to fight for those points. And like you said, only the top 10 get the points. So everybody wants to get up there, wants to get up to that 10th place. at least, and preferably up further, of course.
I think it's Giuseppe Saracino, isn't it, who disconnected through race number 1, and it seems like his internet has decided not to return to action.
Exactly.
But still, 29 is a very nice field indeed.
It's still a good number of drivers. We're just waiting for Cameron, the race director, who we spoke with just a little while ago, to set up the grid, make everything as it should be for the sprint race. Should be fixed in the next minute or so.
He's not doing his job, is he?
Yeah. Talk through
Been here 3 years.
He's talking too long with us, I guess.
Oh, it looks like he's got it sorted.
Here we go, indeed.
And there we are. Nothing to see here. It's all plain sailing at Formula Sim Racing. And certainly for the... I would say in particular for Michi Hoyer, Felix, he'll be hoping that this race is as incident-free as possible, because he only really has himself to blame for where he finished in race 1. At least here, he's starting in a good position to make up some points with what you would hope/expect to be a race win for him.
Yeah, he's starting in P4. Drivers rolling off the grid now. Potentially, he is the favorite here for the sprint race, knowing his experience in the World Championship Series, knowing his experience in the Winter Series, obviously, as well. He is the reigning champion after all. Last year we had the same kind of format, so he has proven that in this kind of format he is well, relatively good and experienced, so let's hope he will be able to do fine. But James, could you quickly go through the grid with us, please?
Absolutely. So it's Gala Matis on pole position. The two Fredriksons, Robin ahead of Danny, P2 and P3. Michi Hoyer will start P4 with Leonov rounding out the P5. The top 10 will see Lazaro starting ahead of Van Egmond, D'Amelio ahead of Reed, and Braxock then in that P10 position. The last of the point scorers, of course, in race number 2. Simoncic will start P11 with Kish P12. And our race winner from race number 1, Martin Crosby, all the way down in P13. How will those three be able to overcome the 10 drivers ahead of them? Will they?
Yeah.
Indra Grimitz starts P14, Alistair Khan P15, and then it's Bon, Graham, Ruth, Stocci, Kunchman rounding out the top 20. And of course, there's only 29 drivers here, of course, with Paul Sarancino not able to reconnect in time. Juba will start ahead of Godek, who had a bit of a nightmare race in the down in P22. Of course, Mrozek as well, disconnected, P23. He's got a lot of pace to burn. Tissing, Rainey, Legales, Vandenit, Tucson, and Vosnika in P29 rounds out our grid. I am super excited to see how this all plays out, because, of course, DRS still coming into effect after the 3rd lap. What will the dirty air be like? Will they be able to overtake as much as they want? Will we see someone from the podium in race number 1 end up on the podium in race number 2? I genuinely don't know, because it's a completely new scenario.
It indeed is. All the pressure is on Kostas Gallanomatis and the Fredriksson brothers here at the front. They have everything to prove against, first of all, Michi Hoyer and Ivan Leonov, who are right behind them waiting to snatch the prey.
So everyone just lining up on the grid now as we look up to the lights for the second time of asking here in Jerez. It is pretty much super soft across the board, with the exception of Khan, Stocci and Rainey, all going with soft tyres. So some aggressive strategies then on the tyre front. It's time to head to the front of the field though. Gallanomatis leads us away for race number 2, and it's a great start from Robin Fredriksson. Look at that, immediately up alongside Gallanomatis. But into turn 1, Gallanomatis holds the inside line, and Michi Hoyer has muscled his way through the entirety of the pack as there's a car flipping over, 2 cars flipping over, 3, 4. It's a demolition derby out there as turn 1 and turn 2 becomes pretty much a second-hand car as someone else is being carried off there. Massive crashes in the first 3 corners, and through it all is Gallanomatis and Hoyer and Braxock, who are in the top 3. Reed, Gosby's up to P5. Would you believe it? From P13, he's taking Jacob Reed from P4. He's gained 9 positions in 6 corners. I know it's in part down to the 3 huge incidents that we've had already, Felix, but he's avoided them all, and he's completely running away with the points tally out of Jerez.
Yeah, crazy start here in the first lap of the sprint race. Some drivers
7 out already.
Yeah, maybe some drivers too exciting into the first couple of corners. Massive gains being made by Martin Gosby up to P4. Somebody to notice as well, Andre Kunchman up to P12. Oh, as he makes a mistake onto the grass, he goes, makes sure he brakes in time. But a lot of drivers that have gained a lot of positions from back of the grid. And Mitchie Hoyer P2 still, but he is going to be chased down by Martin Gosby rather soon.
So your retirements, and they are big ones as well. Danny Kish out, Ruth Tissing, Mrozek out again, Van Egmond, Godek, and Robin Fredrickson all out of this race. Simonchich, Reed, and Lazaro all into the pits with damage. This could not be going any better for Martin Gosby if he tried. And you know what? Look at the likes of Alistair Khan and Herman Stocci as well. They were starting on the soft compound tyres, so they're going to be pretty safe when it comes to the length of this race and the health of their tyres. They're in 7th and 8th. That's huge. That's good points for them. Bon and Juba currently rounding out the top 10. And as you rightly say, Kunchman's made the most of it as well. He's just on the precipice of this top 10. And if he's able to get in there, it's points, which would be excellent for him. Back up to the front, though, Mitchie Hoyer, he would be allowed to attack Galen Matis if it wasn't for Yanis Brasok, the guy who caused him who caused Jerne Simonchich, I should say, rather, so much pain throughout that race in not allowing Jerne to get away. He was keeping him honest for so long. He's now keeping Mitchie Hoyer very honest indeed as well. This is a breakthrough race for Janos Braksok. Oh, as Alistair Khan, as soon as I sing his praises, he's unfortunately made a mistake down at the final corner, and he's down to P15.
We're going for a quick replay here of the events that happened in the first lap. Let's see if I can get a replay, if it even allows me to go this far back. I am not sure it will. Here we go. This is the replay from the start, watching on board with Martin Gosby. He was right in there, gaining a lot of positions. Let's see if we can find what happened. Some network cars got involved with a little contact, and then cars all over the place, flipping over. Indeed, a lot of carnage. Not exactly sure what happened, but you can definitely see that there was quite a few drivers flipping over.
It is one which I believe the stewards will probably be taking.
Yeah.
Probably be taking a look at that one, I imagine. Because that was 7 drivers out in the space of 30 seconds. Pretty much. Hopefully the culprits will be found, whoever they were. Anyway, back to the front. And fair play to Galen Matis. He has been a pretty safe pair of hands up front there. He has not looked too out of place, certainly. But Mitchie Hoyer, using some DRS along with Janos Braksok, has reeled in that second gap to under a second now. And we were saying that Hoyer probably the favourite for this race. He's still got to do the business. He's still got to actually overtake Galen Matis, but at least he's got 10 seconds. He's got 10 minutes or so to try and make it happen, as there's been another massive crash and Jan Woznica is out of the race.
Yeah, indeed. Jan Woznica out of the race. Jerne Simonchich is still back in P20 after he had to do his pit stop for repairs. Janos Brasok is looking close to the back of the car of Mitchie Hoyer, and Martin Gosby also slotting in behind these drivers. So this is going to be a almost 4-way battle for the first finishing position.
So Martin Gosby still in P4. I was asking the question, can we see someone who finished on the podium in race number 1 finish on the podium in race number 2? I didn't quite expect it to happen this way, but Martin Gosby in with as much chance as anyone else. Luca D'Amelio as well doing a brilliant job there up there in P5 at the moment. Danny Fredrickson suffered a bit obviously down in P6. Stocci down in P7 on his own really, and then we've got this great battle at the edge of the points. Bond, Juba, Kunchman, who's now in the points actually, and Danny van der Neet lining up a move on said Kunchman. Is he going to try and make a move into turn 1? Oh, he takes a look. He takes a dive as well. Up the inside, bold from the Dutchman. Can he hold it through the inside of turn 2 as well? He dives late, and it's so tight between the two of them, locking axles. But now Kunchman will have the inside of turn 3. That is good defending, but Danny van der Neet is all over the back of this P10 position.
Yeah, great battling here between Andre Kunchman and Danny van der Neet. Not sure if these drivers have ever raced against each other in the past. They might have. Danny van der Neet, obviously also a driver that has been around for quite a while here in Formula SimRacing. But so far, Kunchman proving himself to be worthy of a P10 position.
So yeah, that progresses. Again, about 10 minutes or so left of this race. Back up to the front, and it's still Gallen Mattis who leads. I noticed Michi Hoyer getting very close in the DRS zone on the back straight. And Gallen Mattis there making a slight mistake through the final corner. He's able to wrap it up decently enough, but he will have lost a little bit of time through there. And he will be losing even more time as Hoyer opens up the DRS zone to close in once again. And this first sector is going to be so crucial for Michi Hoyer now, because the longer that he stays behind Gallen Mattis, the longer that Braxock will have an opportunity to overtake him. And Gallen Mattis really starting to prove to be a bottle cork effect, because Gosby and D'Amelio are closing in as well. Obviously, DRS going to be available for Hoyer once again down this back straight. The question is, can he use it to maximum effect? It's a great exit from Gallen Mattis, to be fair to him. And you know what? I don't think that Hoyer is going to have a chance really to launch a move. No, that's brilliant work from Costas. He is leading this race beautifully so far, Felix, even if he doesn't have the outright pace to pull away.
Yeah, he's doing a great job showing his talent. Depending of likes of drivers like Michi Hoyer and Martin Gosby and look at Emilio as well, a little bit further back. But this is gonna get tight though. Michi Hoyer is closing in, I think, a bit further than he was before through this last sector.
He's following Gallen Mattis much better, isn't he? Actually, update by the way on the Kunchman van der Neet battle. It's van der Neet who's made his way up into P10, so Kunchman couldn't hold on to it for too long. But this battle for the lead is really started to heat up now. Michi Hoyer looking to the inside. Is he going to make a dive? No. Decides against it as Boris Bond's forced into the pit, unfortunately. I don't quite know why, but it promotes Kunchman back up into P10. Gallen Mattis just looking to try and eke out as much of an advantage as he can through these corners where the dirty air will be affecting Michi Hoyer to a small degree. He'll also be hoping that Janos Braxock can maybe mount a challenge on Michi Hoyer, but Braxock now has Martin Gosby all over his rear wing. But once again, down this back straight, I was expecting the DRS to be a lot more effective than it's actually ended up being. Yeah. Felix, we've seen a lot of moves into turn 6, certainly, but I wouldn't say the DRS has been overly powerful. It's not been just because of the DRS that moves have happened. No,
definitely. It hasn't been too overpowered, and seemingly it isn't too bad to not have DRS, but obviously when it comes down to it, if the driver is really close behind, I'm pretty sure the DRS will still help the driver behind quite a bit.
Final corner once again. We're going to be heading onto lap 8 here, and towards the 10 out of 15 minute marker. Gallen Mattis is very much seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I feel, at this point. I said it once, I'll say it again. He is driven beautifully well, considering the circumstances. And Michi Hoyer is starting to run out of time, as is Braxock and Gosby, of course. Watch out for Luca D'Amelio as well. The Italian watching brief, and I'm pretty sure just happy to be there. I mean, this would be a second top 10 score in a row, showing good consistency. Danny Fredriksson still falling off the back, and then it's Herman Stocci in a world of his own. Ooh, big contact down the back, though, and Zuber and Remitz and Van der Neet all get caught up in each other, and Kunchman's the big benefactor. He's up to P8, Leonov up to P9, and Zuber runs away in P10.
Let's quickly go for a replay, see if we can find out what happened there. Van der Neet seemed to dive. Let's see if I can go a little bit further back. Van der Neet here coming into turn 2, I think. Dives up the inside of the driver in front of him, and that didn't really work out. Contact was made. Kunchman was able to get past as well, and they were locked together. Wheels, also the teammates. Danny Van der Neet.
Michi Hoyer! Sorry, Michi Hoyer further up the road. He outbroke himself so much and almost came across the front wing of Janos Braksok. That was a huge mistake for the German to make, and he's actually gotten away with it relatively well. He's still within 5/10 of Gallo Matis. But another slight mistake from Michi Hoyer. He needs to get these out of his system, because he was looking to line up a move on Gallo Matis just then, and it ended up backfiring massively. So onto the back straight again, and look at Braksok. I'd say he's not even worrying too much about Gosby behind him. He's probably lining up more Michi Hoyer at this point. Gallo Matis proving to be the most frustrating cork in the bottle that Michi Hoyer's ever had to deal with, it seems.
Yeah, so far he is, like you said, doing a great job to fend off Michi Hoyer, Janos Braksok, Martin Gosby. Look at Amelio. However, will his tires last? There's still 3 minutes remaining, so about 3 laps probably. 2-3 laps. If his tires aren't worn already, he's gonna have to worry that he doesn't wear them too much in the next couple of laps, because then maybe Michi Hoyer will be having an advantage over him if he staved his tires a bit more.
Even still though, Felix, unless his tires literally explode, then he's guaranteed P6, I'd say.
Exactly, yeah.
Because there's an 11-second gap between Stotchi in 7th and Fredriksson in 6th. So, to be fair, these top 6 have run away with it. They've taken advantage of those massive incidents. But Michi Hoyer really looks to be turning the screw, isn't he, now? Turning up the heat and already looking on the inside of Sito Pons onto the back straight. This is as close as Michi Hoyer has ever been. Is this going to be the move? Gallo Matis has forced him to the inside, and Hoyer's taken it to the inside. Around the outside, Gallo Matis will try and defend, but Michi Hoyer, he's been patient, and his patience has been rewarded, taking the lead of the race with 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, now the drivers behind will be trying to take advantage of this little moment that Kostas has. Obviously, will be getting into a new sort of phase. Now he has the dirty air from Michi Hoyer in front of him as well, that he needs to take into account in his driving. And maybe Janos Braksok will be able to take advantage of that, and Martin Gosby, and look at Emilio as well.
Look how easily Michi Hoyer is starting to pull away now. That was great strategy from Hoyer. I was questioning his patience. I was questioning whether he was getting frustrated, but he's made it work beautifully well. Indrek Remet's a late retirement, unfortunately. There's been another big incident, so Van der Neet up into P9. Matthew Tucson up into P10. He'll be delighted with points if he can finish there. But yeah, for Gallo Matis now, it's a question of holding on to P2, and that is going to be a tough ask with the likes of Braksok, Gosby, and Emilio behind. The light at the end of the tunnel, it's starting to fade a bit, Felix. I feel like it's been a great effort so far, although a mistake from Braksok might allow Gosby onto the podium. Let's watch this battle now as it develops. Gosby goes to the inside, he dukes to the outside, he tries to catch Braksok unawares, but Braksok was having none of it. He stays in P3. And so, 14 out of 15 minutes. Next lap should be the final lap. It really should be the final lap if my maths doesn't fail me. By the way, it does quite a lot. But we should, this shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. Michi Hoyer just maintaining a rough second gap or so. He doesn't need to push too hard. He knows he's got the latent pace to beat Gallo Matis at this point. The battle for P2 is the most fascinating though. Will Gallo Matis be able to hold on to the podium? He's got a lap to survive, Felix. And you know what? Based on the evidence of this race, I wouldn't bet against him to do it.
I don't know. Janos Braksok is really close. Martin Gosby as well. Almost runs into the back of Braksok there.
Oh, and he hits Braksok! He tries the undercut and he ends up hitting Braksok. Great sportsmanship from Gosby. He knows he did wrong, and that's going to allow D'Amelio into P4, and that could be... Oh, look at this, around the outside, Gosby trying a slingshot around there. Doesn't quite come off as exceptionally stylish as that was. That's going to have ruined his tyres, but all of this is going to have helped Galen Mattis because, of course, those 3 kicking off has allowed him to pull out the extra second or so that he needs.
Now just a couple of corners left for Michi Hoyer to take the win. Seems like it's in the bag for him. Over a second of a gap to Kostas Kalamatis.
Yeah. And so his race 1 might not have went the way that he wanted, but he has really saved himself with his race 2 performance. It is Michi Hoyer who wins the sprint in Jerez, and it's going to be the pole sitter Kostas Kalamatis who comes home a brilliant P2 after an outstandingly good drive. Janos Braksok will pick up the podium with Luca D'Amelio P4. Martin Gosby, so close to a podium himself, will surely exit Jerez as the championship leader. Danny Fredriksson P6 with Herman Stocci making those soft tyres work in P7. Andre Kunchman just beating home Danny van den Eet in P9. And the final point scorer will be Matthew Tucson in P10.
So, wow, what a race we've had here. It's almost... I need to take a break, take a breath.
It was quite something, wasn't it? The rest of the finishes, by the way, Graham, Megales, Simoncic. So Simoncic not even scoring a point, of course. Rainey, Schuber, Bon, and Lazaro, your retirements. And there were a lot of them. Reed, Leonov, Remets, Woznica, Khan, Robin Fredriksson, Godek, Van Egmond, Rozek, who just couldn't catch a break today, Tissing, Ruth, and of course Danny Kish, who finished on the podium in race number 1. He was our first retirement in those huge incidents which will be looked over by the stewards. Just doing the quick maths, I am 95% sure it's Martin Gosby who leads the championship. In no part, of course, or in massive part, helped by the fact that Hoyer didn't score well in race number 1. Kish didn't score at all in race number 2, along with Simoncic. And Gosby was a similar case to Michi Hoyer. Didn't score well in race number 1, did score well in race number 2. So, looking very good for the Brit. A brilliant start to his Winter Series campaign.
Definitely, he is... He's doing a great, or he has done a great job these 2 races. Had a little bit of troubles in the last lap there with the incident between him, Janos Britsuk, but he was, he did the sportsman decision by giving that position back. Also losing the position to Luca D'Amelio consequently, but after all, we're all driving here for fun. There is a prize, of course. The winner gets a free license for the 2019 Formula SimRacing Championships. But after all, we're still driving for fun here. So great job by Martin Gosby and obviously Michi Hoyer, who won the sprint race.
And so we'll see whether we can't get a couple of interviews, hopefully with Mr. Hoyer and Mr. Gosby. It'd be great to interview our race winners. But for now, let's take a little look forward to round 2. Which is going to be taking place on January the 13th. So you only have to wait a week before your next helping of Winter Series. And if you thought Jerez was going to be interesting, then Baku will probably perk your ears up even more. That's going to be fascinating, especially with a reverse grid race.
Definitely. Baku, of course, has proven itself in real life to be a rather exciting track. And I'm sure it will provide us with... at least as much excitement as it has done in the real-life series.
And, of course, we do have 2 more rounds after that, of course. It's a 2-week break, almost like a mid-season break between Baku, and then we travel to Barcelona, and we end our series at one of my favourite tracks, in all honesty, Spielberg, also known as the Red Bull Ring. I think that's going to be a brilliant finale, especially at such a short track, so many overtaking opportunities. And speaking of overtaking, actually, someone who did a lot of it in race number 2 was Martin Gosby. Now, Martin, we need to talk about where this wonderful form has come from, because you admitted that your 2018 didn't go the way it wanted. You struggled a lot with the tyres, and yet today... your qualifying pace was as good as we've seen it throughout the entirety of 2018. Your race pace was as good as we've seen it in over a year, giving you a win in the end. And of course, we know there were a lot of incidents at the beginning of race number 2, but your instincts to avoid everything gave you a top 5 again. You leave as championship leader, and that must feel pretty amazing after the year that you've just experienced.
Yeah, it does feel pretty good. But I'll take it with a pinch of salt because the first race, there was Danny was on my tail, and Yone had a spin, but he still ended up 3 seconds behind. So, yeah.
But to be fair, it's only 4 rounds as a championship, and you've already scored so many good points. So you've put yourself in a prime position. So that I'd almost say if you're consistent until the end, you'll still be a championship contender.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, initially I just did this series just to do some driving in general, so I can get some laps, get used to my new pedals and everything like that. So yeah, I'll carry on racing and hopefully I can do all of them, and why not go for the championship?
I'd say the new pedals are probably working. I'm very similar. Actually, I'm doing this series because I need to get back into the gist of things with commentating and such. But so overall goal then is this is much more of a preparation stage for World Championship to come, rather than I'm going for the Winter Series because I absolutely want to win it.
Yeah, well, if I have a chance of winning it, I'll go for it. But yeah, I just wanted to do some laps. I mean, over the winter, I'd been on iRacing, but I never did a lap because I was just not used to my pedals, and I just didn't want to cause a crash or anything like that. So it's good to have a race where I didn't.
I was going to say, they ended up being pretty good race laps.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you hit
on,
one
Felix,
person, didn't you? In the end there.
Yeah, on the last lap, yeah.
Shh, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Okay, cheers, Martin. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your first race win in over a year.
Thank you, guys.
And thankfully, in slightly stalling out that interview, we were able to bring in Michi Hoyer, who ended up being our race 2 winner, but might leave a little bit more disappointed, I guess, than optimistic. Take us through that race 1. Such a simple mistake to make on the edge of turn 1, but it turned out that a lot of people made the same mistake. So maybe one that you could have avoided, but at the same time, just one of those things that happens.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's the nature of the track. Many of those runoff areas behind the curbs, the so-called astroturfs, they are like a level lower between the actual curb, and if you just slide on them with the rear end tire, and then the underfloor or the bodywork is floating on the curb, and that forces you into a spin. Which I was not able to catch. So after that, obviously race 1 was pretty much done. I was stuck behind Ivanov. And for my setup, I really hadn't had a chance to pull out the move on him and then destroy the tires in the second run. Yeah, it was not the most fortunate race there, race 1. Agree.
But to be fair, you did get a good position for race number 2, and of course, with all the carnage behind you, you were able to solely focus on Galil and Mattis ahead after a brilliant start in the first place. Take us through the process, because I was suggesting that you might be getting a bit frustrated being behind him for so long, but in the end, it seemed like it was patience that won you the day. You were able to just hold off, wait until his tyres degraded a bit, and then went for a move that he simply couldn't defend.
Yeah, sort of. The lessons learned from race 1 there was like, okay, you're not allowed to push hard behind them, and seemingly I got aggressive lap after lap, as obviously traffic was coming in behind. So it was a lucky move into turn 1 on the start. Happy to not be caught out there, but after that, just as you're saying, I was starting to get frustrated, and right in a perfect moment, my engineer, who already dropped out of the race, sent over a message on the chat down there saying, hey, chill, his tire's going to fall off in the end. You need to conserve your tires, and then you're going to have a move. And it was a perfect moment he said it, because that was where my brain was starting to switch around again, going to do aggressive, and then I was like, okay, you're going to sit here. And as I saw the 5-minute remaining message down in the chat, I was like, okay, now you need to